Testing, testing, one, two, three. Are we getting any audio? I'm spiking up. Testing. Just let me know in the chats. We do have YouTube, and the show is TriCast on YouTube and Twitch, and the audio gets punched out to Discord. Um, Good. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Let's do this again. Welcome, creatives, community, and kind folks out there. Hello, I am your host, DBJ, for the channel RPG with DBJ. And yesterday we were talking about the creative space and not having any creativity and the pressure it puts on us to be creative. And from the various members out there came up with a number of ideas of how to be creative, where to find some of that creativity, and just in a strange way, creating barriers to not think of everything, but to focus, to funnel our creativity down, so that by adding limitations into what we're trying to create, it actually gives us a great space to create something. Much like a person who's looking for something to eat, and they open up a pantry or a refrigerator and they've got everything. If you narrow it down to, like, okay, I've got eggs, maybe I've got some breakfast meat. All right, we're going to have breakfast. Don't know what it's going to be yet, but whatever, right? But the flip side of that is having too much creativity, having too many ideas. And I was mentioning that for some out there, they're looking at me like, whatever. There's nobody that has too many ideas. I'd love to have the problem of having too many ideas, but it could be pretty daunting to have too many ideas, because it's very easy to become like scatterbrained and unfocused, because everything is always creating something new for you if you have too many ideas. And in a strange kind of way, there is really a pressure, a psychological pressure, when you have too many ideas, because uh, maybe people look to you to always have the next good idea. And despite having plenty of ideas, being a walking muse, maybe, where focusing it down and getting down into many of the details may be very difficult for you to do if you're someone that has too many ideas. And others may look at you like, yeah, I see you spitballing, but you know, don't George Lucas me into wow, that's a great idea, but having no way to execute those ideas, you know. And Rickard says, too many ideas doesn't exist. You simply have creativity to compensate for your dry spell. Yeah. Yeah. Just write them down and save them for later. Pick one or two to develop. And that's the issue. It's the feast or famine idea, right? Like, when you're in a creative space, there's always feast or famine. It's either feast, you you can't stop the ideas coming to your head, and then there's famine where you have nothing. And like Rickard Johansson is mentioning, like, you got to write them down. It's basically just that high point, that crest on the top of the wave is there to compensate for having nothing later on. And it's the proverbial, do you have a sandbox world, a fully developed world, or do you do it on the fly? Do you improv, or do you over prep? And the answer to that is yes. Right? Like, all unused over prep is improv fuel, when you have nothing. And most really experienced game masters out there, that you're thinking like, man, they created that on the fly. They're super creative. More likely than not, they didn't just come up with that at this very moment. They had that in their back pocket from that moment when they were very creative and stuck it there. And now they're in a position where maybe they've got an actual play broadcast, or their player makes a left turn on them and they don't know where to go. And they go, oh man, I've got this unused prep that I had from way back in the day. I'm going to use it today. But another issue when it comes to having too many ideas is, okay, you created this ultra gritty cyberpunk world. Maybe you have a little twist on it. Maybe it's the players have been adventuring in an off the coast island, that nation that floats, and half of it is, it's like an iceberg, and it's underwater, and maybe there's even aquatic genetically mutated human beings, and you've got this sci-fi world, and your players are really into it, and you just had this great spark, and you've been able to vibe off of this thing for months because you've been pretty dry in the creative space. You go, man, this is a great world, and then all of a sudden you picked up a novel, or maybe a graphic novel, or you were at work and bored, and your coworkers walked in and they're talking about the latest television show or whatever. And yeah, like Vampanoid says, nothing prepped is ever wasted. Just put it in your pocket for later. I think sometimes we can fall into the trap of if we create it for this, I'm coming up with this aquatic cyberpunk world, right? Setting or something. It could just be the coast of some nation or something. We feel like, well, even though the players never encountered this thing, because I built it for this one world, I can't pick it up and use it somewhere else. If you created an intense, gritty, run and gun cyberpunk world with this partially aquatic environment, but they never reached, I don't know, the Marianas Trench or something, and then you all of a sudden you start running a fantasy realm, steal your own Marianas Trench idea and stick it in your fantasy world. Your players in your cyberpunk game never saw it. But I think the fear can be when we have a ton of ideas that if we don't use them now, all of them now, we're going to run out. That we will never have another good idea. So I've got to use the idea now. And despite the fact that I have this gritty cyberpunk game, I've got to use my comedy. I've got to use my extra dimensional space invasion storyline. I've got to use my I don't know, clone idea. I've got to use my wizards. I know cyberpunk doesn't have wizards, but got to come up with a spell system for my cyberpunk red game, because I thought of these wizards, and if I don't use it now, I'll run out. No, like no, no, don't. I understand that some of us can be a little uh, put off by not be feeling like we're not as creative as we should be or could be. And when we do have that creative spark, it can be a few and far between. So we want to capitalize on that. And we want to insert every single creative idea into what we're doing now. And the danger in that is throwing off your equilibrium by feeling like the creative spark is the new thing today, when you have other people who are counting on you to have a little bit more, um, to be a little bit more reserved in your dispensation of your ideas. But at the same time, and this is the hard part, the equilibrium part. At the same time, if you have something great, you have a great storyline or an NPC or a big bad or something, just put it in the game. It's not like, I think too many times we have a big giant idea in front of us and a tiny little idea, and that's our better idea, and we put that in our back pocket because we want to put the bigger, more generalized idea out front, because we want to hold on to this gold nugget of this other idea. And maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we should insert massage and insert our creativity into what we're doing. And it seems like I'm both saying, wait a minute, hold on to the creativity, both at the same time as going, you need to use it. And there's that can be very difficult, difficult as not having any idea at all. Um, like Deadman says, well, make it a hacker group that hacks people's cyberware to cause issues. Yeah, there is a good way to massage some of our ideas without necessarily having to having to add a magic system if you're literally playing like Cyberpunk 2020 or something. Um, for the most part, going back to the core essential value of your whatever creativity you had is probably better than trying to flip the script on something. An example would be, we know in television there's always we have a lot of procedural shows, legal, medical, police. Those procedural shows are very common, and the reason why they work is because it's very easy to take the core essential value of something, especially if it's like in the news or in real life, and massage the details a bit to make it fit in, including, if you ever watch those police procedural shows, they will throw in the magic episode. They will throw in the musical episode, the singing episode or something. Now, it might be someone that had a car accident who can't talk but they can only sing, or it might be the detective episode where they meet an oracle or a medium or something, someone who can predict the future or seems like they're psychic sensitive, and of course the detective's like, that's not real. But there is a way to massage divergent elements into your world when you're really creative. Hello there, Red Dice Diaries. I just try and put ideas in when I get them, if at all possible, because I won't remember that shit by the time my next game comes around. Yeah, there is that too. How many? Okay, let's be honest here. Get a little scatological. How many of you people, you guys, because I know I have all the time. How many of you have been on the shitter, had a great idea, flushed, washed hands, walked out, and forgotten the idea? It happens more often than a little bit. I feel like I suffer from having too much creativity, in the sense of, I feel like I wish I was like in a writer's room or something with various people, and I just want to raise my hand, like, listen, I got this great idea. How about you do this, and the other thing? I mean, so many of us, when we, what is it, like Zack Snyder's Justice League, or God forbid, Star Wars and whatnot. How many of us out there have been shaking our heads like, oh man, why didn't they use blank from blank? Why didn't they do the blank thing with the blank other blanky thing? Um, yeah. Mr. Large is like, yep, today, about 10 minutes ago. Sometimes when you're pinching a loaf, you're just like, how is my creativity down there? But it happens a lot. And when you have that creativity, I get being, you know, like Dead Man says, that's why you always bring a recorder everywhere. I'm presuming not recording the sound effects, but of course recording the idea that you had, which is where the trusty cell phone and an app really comes into play. I default to Google Docs. I apologize, Google Docs, but uh, the two big ones that I can think of are Google Docs and OneNote. I guarantee there's a thousand, 1,500 of them out there that might be more appropriate for what you're using. I also love the classic. Let me see if I can pull my book out. I said book. um, Notebook, ink pen. God, just that's the simple act of, and I've got notebooks and ink pens in like nearly every room of the house. My wife, who thinks it's hilarious, but she's into me like doing that now. An ink pen and a notebook next to it, just for me to write it down. And sometimes, for me, the act of actually writing it down, it's not me writing it down so I can refer to it later, even though I will do that. It's the physical act of getting it out of my head and writing the note down cements the idea in my head as to whether the idea was actually any good or not. And so, yeah, Red Dice is like, there are some things not meant to be recorded. Although, I don't know, there's an actual market out there for some recording. So just listen. If I open up my OnlyFans, that might be my niche. Anyway, uh, I think some of the other things that happen when we are too creative, when we have too many ideas, is finding an appropriate place to harness the fire. Okay, so there's nothing inherently. I know I'm going to make an analogy here. It's probably going to be terrible, but I'm going to go down this path anyway. Fire itself is not uh, dangerous or harmful, but it's what you do with fire. A forest fire that scorches tens of thousands of acres of land is dangerous when people have to run from their homes. But we have microwaves and gas stovetops and electric ovens. We have things that create warmth. I've got a Keurig coffee maker that boils water. I've got a toaster in my house. We have things that cause fire. Candles and uh, the little, I'm going to call them propane things that light fires and matches. So fire is not bad, but it's how it's used. And listen, we all know people in the gaming community that are creative whirlwinds, that they throw a monkey wrench into nearly everything. There are people we've played with. There are content creators out there. I'm probably one of them that get so scatterbrained that you're like, whoa, 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 calm down. What about that other idea two ideas ago? Go back to that one. And you're just like, no, but I've got this other idea and it's greater than this one. And we're still suckling on the teat of the last great idea that hasn't come to fruition, and we want this later one. And also, we have to be careful to, like, for example, there was a Kickstarter that I backed, and mind you, I enjoyed the eventual results of the Kickstarter, but there were lots of people that were pissed off, and his name was J.M. or J.M. Perkins, who created Salt in Wounds, and it was a setting about a Tarrasque that was threatening to wake up, but it was held down. This is the old Tarrasque that could never be killed, and it was held down by these harpoons with like mystic runes on them in this section of the world that you could kind of throw into your own setting, and a whole city and economy and society built up around this Tarrasque that was brought down by the 13 warriors or something. And it took forever for this Kickstarter to come out. And sometimes today we can be super enthused and, man, I got another great idea and another one and another one. And when we hit our dry spell, we've burned ourselves out. So I absolutely agree with Rickard and Deadman to record your ideas, keep them away, keep them in your back pocket. Um, try not to become too much of a super salesman in your new idea. Just because you've seen Godzilla and King Kong, now you're like, man, I got to break out all my kaiju gaming materials, even though I was working on Cyberpunk. But then I felt like adding a magic system in there, but I really want to add kaiju into my Cyberpunk world. And everyone's just like, okay, stop. Let's finish this game first before we move on to the other one, right? Then you get because then all of a sudden it becomes infectious, and now one of your players wants to play Ultraman in your Cyberpunk game, and the person who just wanted to create a gun-toting solo is just like, don't. Oh, are we doing this again? So finding a great place to place your creativity is a good thing, and finding a niche for it and where to harness your creativity, harness that fire, that forge that you have. You want to build that forge so you can keep the fire going and keep it safe from everyone else. An example would be like, yeah, like Rickard is saying, beware of scope creep. Ooh, I love that term, beware of scope creep. And what he's saying is, sorry, Vampanoy is like DJ Khaled style, another one, and I made another one. Yeah. Oh, there's another one. And you're like, all right, relax. Can I just embrace the one you already have? So scope creep happens when it's the complaint I have with the mystery box TV shows where like we're watching a vampire television show and it's all about the machinations of vampires and you're like, man, I really love this vampire show. Wow, it's got vampires in it. And then all of a sudden, next episode, aliens. And you're like, wait, what? Vampires encounter aliens. And then the in your mind you're like, well, oh, okay. I mean, it is weird for vampires to not believe in aliens, but okay. And then you're like, all right, well, I don't really feel like adding aliens in this vampire show is good, but all right, I'll go with it. And all of a sudden they're like, stay tuned until we start introducing, you know, an AI starts taking over the world, and what happens when the Earth moves into another dimension, and you didn't realize this, but shape changers have already invaded, and you're just like, what happened to my vampire show? Dead Man's like Cowboys versus Aliens. That's maybe that's just terrible execution. Great idea, terrible execution. I don't know, but I mean, but yeah, scope creep can be maybe you have you're running a story that's one coastal city. Going back to the aquatic cyberpunk idea I pulled out of my ass, right? And maybe that's really where the story is supposed to take place, but all of a sudden the scope of the game gets bigger and bigger. And now video games can kind of suffer from this, where the the last the last challenge in one level of a game becomes the easy thing to overcome in the next level of the game. And so like comic books run through this, a lot of action movie series run through this, where it feels like the only way to make the stakes better, it's like, oh, my friendly neighborhood is in danger. Oh, well, it's the whole city. Oh, well, it's the whole country. Now it's the whole world. Now it's the galaxy. Now it's the whole multiverse. And after you threaten the whole multiverse, where do you go from there? And all this, it let's go to the MCU, right? They told the story, 20 something movies, 22 movies, whatever, of Thanos. Well, technically still going on if you think about the Disney Plus, both Disney Plus series. And what bad guy are we thinking of later on? Well, it's got to be bigger and better. It's got to be bigger than Thanos. It's got to be Galactus. It's going to be the Beyonder, the In-Betweener. It's like, well, maybe you're creeping up a little bit too much. Maybe while we want to be creative, maybe we can pull it back just a little bit and find what the core essential value is. Uh, Rickard's like, Cowboys versus Aliens is definitely a great concept, silly concept, but great nonetheless. Yeah, you know what? As a matter of fact, I think that's why there are many cowboy western style role playing games are very popular, because they have a lot of space to be creative. Deadlands and oh, there's a zine one that I can't remember the name of it, but I really liked it. I whatever. Anyway, the Dead Man says 23 movies in the MCU, and I technically you could even add the Disney Plus series to that as well. Yeah, 23 movies. Yep. But anyway, Rickard says less is more. Just because you have 10 ideas doesn't mean you should use them all at one time. Yeah. So how do we? Red Dice says it's going to be the upside downer or the inside outer. Yeah, going a little bit too far with an idea, and I think a way to harness some of our to harness our forge, to use our forge in a good way, is to understand our own limitations. Yesterday we talked about not having any creativity at all and finding ways to make that spark, whether it's engaging in things that have nothing to do with tabletop role playing games. But when you're super creative, finding a way to harness it. Let's go with a very common affliction in role playing games, and that is character generationitis. We all know at least one player that always has another great character concept that they want to play. Well, finding a niche inside the game where your character can keep changing is a good way to harness that fiery forge of always wanting to create another character. Like, I'm a fan of, you guys know, we have Future Fridays, and I love transhumanism. I'm like an armchair humanist, and into transhumanism. And one of the concepts is that your cortical stack can be placed in different types of biological and synthetic bodies. Well, maybe that's the kind of game or niche sector of that kind of game where that player can be satisfied with creating something different all the time, or working with if you're suffering from character generationitis and you want to work with your game master to create a character that's, how many times have we seen this before? My character has multiple personality. Or working with, hey, could I make my druid or cleric have different abilities based on astrological signs, or the seasons change, or something like that. Like, trying to find yeah. Vampiro is like the person who always wants to make characters. They want to play, aka also known as the DM. Yes, some of us, yeah, I'm guilty of that. Like, man, I've got 15 character ideas. I'll be the DM so I can use them all. Right? Oh yeah. I'll get to the Discord in just a moment. Rickard says, as long as Marvel doesn't go with, do you mean scrolls? It will be okay. Otherwise, the movies will become R-rated by default. And oh, in Scandinavia, due to the name, Knull means something. I don't. What is that in the Marvel universe? You're gonna have to give me a little more details on that one. But Dead Man Zine, Zeen. I'm not familiar with that. 2019 IMDb. Chad is a pretentious white Jamaican film director. With his ragtag Caribbean cast and crew, he aims to shoot a highbrow social drama called Brothers in Babylon. I'm not familiar with that. Mm-mm-mm. Reminds me of Snow, the 90s Canadian reggaeton rap artist or something. But anyway, that's how you get squirrely when you get these different ideas. You know, one of the oh, Null from the from Earth 616, the Marvel database. That's Null, or Knull, if you want to really go be silly about that. Null is the Lord of the Symbiotes. Really? I did not know that. Why didn't I? Well, I've been a little bit out of the current loop, the 616 loop for quite some time now. Other than the movies and such, I've got a backlog of comic books. It's crazy. Which, in many ways, it's kind of like if we're able to record our creative spark, find a way to record it, whether you want to do some. I haven't been able to perfect this, but I know there are some people who will voice record their great ideas, then go back and transcribe their own ideas by just talking into their phone. There are others who can sit down and start typing, or have some sort of shorthand method. Maybe you have an idea and you go, what's the idea? It's X-Men, Victorian England. Got to do the snapping, right? It's X-Men, Victorian England. Okay, and then maybe you just put X-Men dash Victorian era, and then later on you can go back to it and go, that's what I was thinking of. Because I tell you, there's plenty of times where I've picked up like one of my old notebooks and written something, and I don't remember ever writing it down. I'm just like, what's that? And much like organic writers who write characters that start to live and breathe for the writers, when you're ultra creative, sometimes you can create an idea that feels like it escapes you, that it moves beyond your mind, that it begins telling its own stories and moving in a direction of its own beyond you. And that where you feel like you're in the zone with the creativity. But just be careful, because when it comes tabletop role-playing games, unlike other creative endeavors, um, I'm not saying none of them, but unlike others, is very collaborative. It is it is very much involves and is necessary to have other people use your ideas. And so, you know, the mantra of no idea survives. It's uh, no idea survives once it's introduced into the world. You know, every plan gets foobarred. You got to really be creative about that. Um, Rickard says it's a new big bad guy in the Marvel comics, the King in Black. Null is the creator of the symbiotes or something. Null is a vulgar way of saying to have sex in Swedish, Norwegian, probably Danish as well. So sometimes we forget that, and and this happens more often than a little bit with the corporate industry. So someone creates a product, whether it's the name of a car. A very famous one was back in the 70s, there was a car called the Nova. Now, for those of us using Americanized English, yes, Kitty, um, you're going to have to get down there. Nova means like, we're like supernova. It's brand new. It's the Nova. Where in Mexico, Nova meant like it doesn't go and it doesn't move. So language translations are pretty important. That's why titles of movies and TV shows and even character names change when it goes from one environment to another. And which is why sometimes even translated books have, like, someone's got to go through them with like a fine-tooth comb, and you need language translators because the uh, sometimes not even just the names, but the context can be lost based on the culture it goes to, which is pretty interesting thing. Oh man, yeah, there, yeah, yeah. Hanson, no, it's coming. Whoa, wait a minute. Yeah, no is kind of like fuck, but slightly more vulgar, but can only be used for the act of sex, not as versatile as its use in English. With that in mind, this is an actual ad Marvel ran internationally. That is hilarious. That is hilarious. Sorry, Kitty. Come on. Yes, I need to see my chat windows, Kitty. Yeah, my chat window. I gotta pop my chat windows down at the bottom and read them. But you guys know where I'm coming from when it you're super creative. You know, another method, strangely enough, of harnessing that creative spark is to, and I understand this is going to feel like it's counter to holding on to the idea, but it's to share it. Now, one big fear is that, especially if you want to go into business, you want to create an idea. Like, let's say, for example, you desire to create, you want to write a tabletop setting, and you're afraid of sharing it because you don't want anyone to steal your idea. Now, there is a such thing as actual intellectual theft. But one of the problems with assuming theft is that the idea never makes it out into the world. Now, while there are people who may not be creative at all and they want to steal someone else's idea, if they aren't creative enough to at least have their own idea, chances are if they try to steal yours, a they're not going to use it creatively and effectively as you would. So, for example, you could claim what's a setting. I'm trying to think of a setting book outside of something. Okay, let's go with an oldie but goodie, Harn. There's a tabletop setting called Harn. And I mean, with maps and NPCs, and it's been a long time since I've even looked at Harn. I don't own it, but I knew a friend of mine that had it, and it is detailed as all get out. Now, you could claim that Harn is maybe yet another medieval derivative, or it's another Tolkien-esque type of thing. But I would dare say that the act of it actually existing in the first place and being the first to market to be what it is in the voice of the creator that created it, I hate to tell you this, but it actually makes it more effective than the person who's been sitting on their own idea. So, one way of sharing that is to use social media. um, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, because it creates a permanent record. You can go back, take a look at it, have people talk about your idea. You're like, man, I want to make wizards, but the more they use their magic, the more corrupt they get. And somebody will go, oh, that sounds like blankety blankety blank. You go, okay, it does sound like that, but I'm going to have a little bit of a twist. How can I still want to use the idea. I know it's been done before, but I want to add a twist to it, and then you should keep going on. Now, listening to people who are critical, and uh, being critical doesn't necessarily mean negative, but there can be some people out there who might just want to shoot your idea down. And you should have a healthy, you should be able to embrace the idea that you can kill your own darlings. At the same time, be careful of the negative, the soul assassins, because if if they themselves aren't creative in their method to criticize your creativity, then I wouldn't bother listening to anything like that. Yeah, yes, we can fall into, as tabletop gamers, we can fall into the same rut as, oh, this is going to be yet another Tolkien-esque type world, and maybe people aren't, doesn't necessarily want that. Maybe there's a twist to it, or the person who says, "Oh, it's just another Tolkien world, I'm done." That's not really a critique. It's like, well, is does it have any merit? Is there something inside of it? There is a reason why um, Game of Thrones held people so much. It's all about character development and character choices and everyone being the hero in their own story. And that is what really pushed it above so many other stories of its similar ilk. So creativity doesn't need to have scope creep where it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. We're going to add to my vampire story, we're going to add dinosaurs and alien invasions and cyberware. And, maybe you might just want to add, another faction, or, develop another city even. Or maybe we're just going to delve into the background of our main characters in this story that I'm writing, or what have you. You know, it's the it's the prequel episode. In television they do this quite a bit, where an act will happen and they'll go, 2 days beforehand, and you'll see your main character bleeding out on the street, and they'll go 6 hours earlier, and you get to find out what really happened, and you go, oh, well, that's a different storytelling mechanism. you know so now, the last thing I will say about having too much creativity is, find an outlet, find a place, a healthy mechanism to release your creativity, whether it is writing it down or recording it or putting it out there on social media or getting into a zone, listening to some music and typing into one of your Google Docs or your OneNote program or something like that. Like find a way to put it out there, because listen, you're gonna have your when you're riding the crest of the wave, you're going to start coming down that per, oh, now my my mathematical brain just farted on me. um, um, you're going to, on your rise up, you're going to come back down and not have anything. So having a way to reference that information, to or to punch out all those NPCs that you're having a hard time finding, or filling out some details about your world that you might want to pick up. It's the Sometimes a lot of people who are improv experts are like the proverbial 3x5 carders, where no, they didn't write the details specifically for the Shadowlands to the south. What they did is they had a bunch of like puzzle pieces, and when the players make a left turn and go north instead of going down south, which you really wanted them to go into the Shadowlands, well, they go up north, they pull out their 3x5 carders. No, not necessarily physically written on 3x5 cards, but they go, wow, I've got 16 NPCs I was going to use in the South. You know what? Never mind. I'm going to put them up north, mix and match what I'm going to do, change some of the descriptors, and bam. And it feels like, wow, I can't believe they came up with that on the fly. And they're going, yeah. And they're thinking in their head, like, I can't believe I came up with that on the fly either, since I had that in my pocket 5 months ago and 3 years ago or something like that. Yeah, like Mike Gould says, save it for one of those writing block days. There's Look, if you're running a aquatic cyberpunk game, and you've got this great arcane setting in your head, work on it, use that energy, work on it. You might not want to introduce it into your cyberpunk game, but believe you me, when you hit a dry spell and yeah, yeah, you're Michael's like, yeah, I'm a 3x5 Carter. I'm an improvisation 3x5 Carter. Yeah, yeah. I haven't used 3x5 cards, but I'm a notebooker. I'm a very constant notebooker. I carry notebooks with me everywhere. They're in every bathroom. They are, thanks, Kitty. They're everywhere. And sometimes it's are there times I go and flip through the books? Of course. But other times it's just the somatic intention of writing the thing down. Sometimes we'll either go, yeah, that wasn't a great idea, or I'll go, man, I got to hold on to this. And so having a reference for it. Now, I know that the guys over at Absolute Tabletop, James and Tim Carney, they, on their channel for Tabletop Terrors, they openly talk about uh, the documents that they use and how they have digital information and how they color code their ideas, you know, things like that. Red Dice is like, I'm all about that index card life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, sorry, DMX passed away. The only gentleman to have a career based somewhat on three saying the word what, a bark, and a growl. That's kind of cool. But but yeah, having a way to organize your ideas and figure out like, okay, um, I'm going to put this in red. Like if you're using like a document online, you could make something. If it's red, it's not finished at all. Maybe if it's blue, it's in the development stage. If it's green, this is a great seed for an idea, and I want to keep it. I don't want to mess with it at all. You know, you could come up with color coding. You could come up with files. Maybe you have a dump file, and you know, it's your shitter file. You know, yeah. Oh man, Mike's gonna get t-shirts, leather jackets made, East Side indexers on the back. A bunch of 3x5 cards and Sharpies in a embroidered bas relief on the back of the motorcycle jacket. Well, listen, we won't be riding motorcycles. It'll be like those like French style scooters, those stereotypical French style scooters. I want mine in like a powder blue. Anyway, he goes on to say, my DM area is covered in small blue and yellow notepad sheets. There's names, catchphrases, monster ideas, and lots of other things to drop hooks. You know what? Sometimes listen, we've been influenced by a turn of phrase, a silly meme, a one-liner. Man, Michael's like, hey, I didn't choose improv life. Improv life chose me. Oh, that's so hilarious. Yeah, don't hate the mechanical pencil. The mechanical pencil hates me. Mechanical pencil. I haven't used a mechanical pencil in so long. Ah, mechanical pencils and graph paper. Man, I miss that. Leather bandolier filled with Sharpies. Yep. Hell's indexers. Is that your motorcycle? Nope, this is a bunch of us on electric scooters just making that noise. Yep, the French scooters are Vespas. Oh yeah, gotta wax my Vespa. Mm-mm-mm. But yeah, yes, they are. Brand name, I believe, that is what they company. But anyway, getting away from the squirrely parts, squirrely bits. The lastly, I will say in a bit of a summary that don't be afraid. Vampanoid is like yes and yes and you know some of the places we get a lot of our creativity are from the people that we play with, that are at our gaming table, that we associate with. You guys out there are my creative spark, and so, ooh, index cards in the spokes. I remember doing that. Yeah, you young folk, with your PlayStation 8s, inside the house. I remember being ordered to go outside and play and don't come back in the house till the lights come on. I remember those days. Mm-mm-mm. And sometimes these small things, completely not related to tabletop RPGs, will light this fire in us. And I know I've never done it, but I've known of people who've created whole, I want to say even whole RPGs based on like one line or one image or one one what if question, like what if, and then they start to fill in the blanks, like what if, and then something starts to happen in their mind, and then boom, one thing leads to another, to another, to another, and the creative spark starts to fly, and just harnessing it in, not always trying to convince your dungeon master to create another player character, not always trying to convince your players to take yet one more left turn from your dark, gritty vampire world into alien invasions or something like that. Yeah, Vampanoid curfew with streetlights. I remember it as a kid. It was literally you need to be in a house when the streetlights come on. And now, mind you, depending on your longitudinal and latitudinal location, like for me, in the summertime, the streetlights didn't come on until 9:30 at night. So during the summertime, you could be out much longer. Of course, when it gets to the winter season, it turns dark at just about 5 o'clock in the evening. So yeah, when the street lights come on, when it's that late 9:30 at night, yeah, it's pretty fun running around in the parks and streets and things like that. That was back in the day before they invented pedophiles, I think. No, it wasn't. We just had a different. It was just a different mindset, I think, during those times. Michael says, I tend to throw out creative ideas. I tend to throw out creative ideas out to the players. I'll ask them for like tavern ideas, like, "Hey Nick, give me a color." "Simon, I want an animal name. That's how the Black Eagle Inn was born." Yeah, you know what? Offloading, offloading the pressure on the shoulders of DMs and learning that it's okay for your players to do some of the hard work for you, because I guarantee you those players have DM aspirations in their mind. Even if they say to themselves, "I'll never DM," they still have that creative spark, and offloading it to them is a great idea. And as a matter of fact, uh, if you're suffering from too many ideas, let's see what happens when you put something in their head and see what happens. And um, creating new NPCs from your players, like ask a player, what's a cool piece of clothing this person's wearing? Somebody else, what's a cool name? Somebody else, what's a great personality feature? And just, you know, is it really that important that the name of the inn is something that you created on your own? No, 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 no. Rickard's like, "I think you're targeting me with the creating new RPG line." I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out. Hell yeah. Yep. Like Michael says, mom's like, "I want you home by dark." That was the rule. Hell yeah. Vampanoid says, "I make players come up with tavern names, and and it's your and if it's your first night playing, they have to name it." That's a cool little like table rule. That's all right. Come up with the tavern name, or like a cool NPC or something like that. I like that idea. Just to say, hell, you could say, "All right, guys, here's your homework. Before you come to the game, I want you to come up with 3 names, 3 personality traits, and 3 like appearances, like appearance quirks, whether it's like hairstyle or clothing or something like that." And then what you do is you don't ask one player to give you all 3. You go to 3 different players. "All right, player, you give me a name. Second player, you give me an appearance. Third, you give me a personality trait. That's our new NPC. That's who's serving drinks at the tavern," right? For the new player that came up with the tavern name, something like that. Red Dice Diary says, "Yep, outsourcing some stuff to players can be great. So if someone says, 'Are there any elves here?' you can turn the question around and say, 'Are there? What are they like?'" I love stuff like that because it's instant and immediate investment in the story. Like, near, I don't know any negative drawbacks to players creating things that at the moment they say it exists in the world. I don't. Maybe there is some negative drawback, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. Dead man. The anti-tank Vespa. Look at that thing. Oh man, a Vespa with looks like a friggin' howitzer on the side of it. It's not that big though. Vespa 150 Tap was an anti-tank scooter made in the 1950s from a Vespa scooter for use with French paratroopers. It looks like a one-off ridiculous thing, but I'm sure it was meant to be extremely mobile so that you could move in and out. You could very easily get it to where you need to go, but it looks ridiculous though. Although, listen, don't put me in front of it. I'll have to apologize to it. um, Rickard says, "Also, you had streetlights during summer?" Yeah, I grew up in a concrete jungle, dude. Yeah, concrete jungle, man. It was we had to find we literally had to travel pretty far to find like parks and grassland. To be honest with you, um, most of it was abandoned lots and stuff like that. Yeah. Mufa says, "I tried to get my players to come up with some lore ideas, and the first response was, 'You're asking us? Aren't you supposed to tell us that?'" Man, that's yeah. There is a little bit of a fallacy out there about players and what the job of the DM versus the job of the players. Yeah, that's a big thing. Vampanoid's like, wish I could remember the name, but my players made a dwarven drag bar that catered to minors after work. Fights were impromptu fashion shows. I love that. I love that a lot. That is really cool. I'm liking that. Oh man, fashion shows, walking down the runway and stuff. You could have like dancing and everything like that, like from the 70s. Oh man, oh man, a disco ball made from like gemstones. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, Michael says when you lack an idea how to proceed, players can be a resource. They sure can. Yeah, Mofa, I haven't really encountered that, but I'm sure that it exists out there. The whole idea of like a player's going like, "Why are you asking me?" You know, it's what is it? It's removing me out of the immersion. That I told you what the bar looks like. That doesn't make any sense. You don't know what you're doing, DM. You know, I don't know. I can't. I've never had that happen to me, but it's probably a real thing. Mike Gould says they might throw out a joke NPC name, and I'll still run with it. If they name a hobgoblin Bob, then it turns out that this hobgoblin ducks a lot in combat. He bobs. I like that. I like that a lot. I listen. Pet peeve. I can't stand it when players come up with ridiculous names. It's just oh when the naming convention doesn't fit into the setting. I mean, if it's ridiculous in the first place, the whole setting, I'm fine with it. We're joking. It's supposed to be funny, but sometimes I just like, oh, I can't stand. Oh, it grates on me. Sorry, that's just one of my pet peeves. I don't mind a normally serviceable name made fun of and turned into something, but to have a person have their actual name be something that's ridiculous, I oh man. Although I do remember kicking a character, a player out of a game. It was a big deal too because he wanted to name his character Rape, and we were just like, "Really, dude? No, no. You're that's a no." Um, oh man, Michael says I had one player who played a draconic sorcerer want to boss kobolds around using his lineage as an advantage. I allowed it for the fun factor. That alone led to a series of interactions with them. I didn't think that doesn't sound ridiculous to me. That's actually kind of cool. Especially when the kobolds start overcompensating. I like that. It's time to rumble like West Side Story. Officer Crumpkey. And everyone's like, is this a real war between the dwarves and the elves? It sure is. Tying their wrists together, fighting in the schoolyard. All right, you kids, get off what the heck's going on here? Oh man. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for indulging me. I feel like I'm coming down with something. I don't know if you can. I normally have a dead zone in my voice because it's like I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and get something to eat and water and feed the kitties, and I got fish and there's blah blah blah. So by 6 in the morning, my throat is still a little bit closed because I'm just waking up. But I feel like I'm coming down with something. So I apologize if you can hear that in my tonality in my voice. Also, I know for those who are watching the show, now you can kind of see like um, the YouTube and the Twitch chat on either side. I want to spotlight you guys as well. So um, you guys were saying it's a good idea. Just let me know if it's a great idea or not. I will continue to do so. I'm actually trying to figure out a way to get me a little bit smaller, to pinch my head just a little bit, just to pinch, just to pinch my head smaller, so I can get you guys uh, to get the imagery just a little bit clearer. But it hasn't really been really effective. Let me see if I can. Let's see if there's a. All right, so I'm going to go over to. Let's get both of my chat windows open here and see if I can make them even better. Like how bards resolve combat: dueling, musicians. All right, so let's go with YouTube here, and let's see if I can make this even. Yeah, oh man. Yeah, it's not. Mm-mm. Mm. That looks like it's a little bit better. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, so I have to, but I have to be able to read it too. Hmm. I'm doing this live. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to. I'm seriously trying to adjust. So this. All right. All right. So let me know in either. There we go. Let me know in either chat if you can see that a little bit better. Mufa's asking what broadcast software do I use? Uh, I'm stupid and a little bit of a luddite, so I use Stage 10. I don't use OBS. It's very much drag and click. As a matter of fact, I can actually show you what it looks like if you don't. Maybe I might do that one day and show you what I do. Stage 10 is very simple. It's got very it's like a three-parter. Um, my assets are on my left, and then what I want to create is in the middle, and then what is broadcast is on the right side. And it's basically drag and click. It's pretty. Broadcast wise, is pretty basic. I used to use I forget what software I used to put all my chat windows together, and it was too much. So now I literally pop out the chat in Twitch, pop out the chat in YouTube. I've got Discord underneath it, and then I make sure my broadcasting is going well, and then I don't even bother to look at myself. Um, that's what I do. So yeah, it's called Stage 10. I pay for it, so it's a paid service, and Mova calls like, arrived at the end. Yeah, we're just talking in general here, but the let's see if I can. You know what? Matter of fact, I will show it to you. I'll see if I can show it to you. So you're going to see the chat windows move just a little bit. So they're going to. I will move myself over here. So we're going to create something new, and then I'm going to. Let's see, get my feed, share my screen. I'm going to share my entire screen. Application window. Boom. Share. And then I'm going to pop it in right here. And then done. So, and then now this is going to look, this is going to look really bizarre because but I'm going to share exactly what it looks like when I'm broadcasting. So 3, 2, 1. Now I am in the bottom. So you're going to see my hands moving. I'm in the bottom. Okay, I'm in this little section to the bottom right, and to the see is okay. Good. My cursor. You can see my cursor. So my cursor is hovering over the various windows that I have available to me. So if I want to bring up the Twitch chat, so let me go here. I'm going to click right above in the very center of my screen are the various types of windows that I can use. So I'm going to go over to how I broadcast the chat windows. So I'm going to hit that. And so now I already had my chat windows set up. So to the very left is what I can put in there. I've got my music. Functions here. I'm going to throw my music in so I can get ready to get out of here. I'm going to turn the volume down a little bit. I use a slider. I'm going to click live. And when I click over to the live section, it goes live and it gets punched out. So when I want my audio to start punching up a little bit, I slide it up a little bit, and you can kind of hear it going and moving and such. And you hear the music, the outro music going on. Now, what you're seeing is what I see. So how do I read the chats? Well, here it is at the bottom. There's Twitch, there's the YouTube chat, there's There's Discord. Boom. Boom. And then that's how I take a look at them. So, yeah. Anyway, it's long story short. That's how the show goes. So, guys, I'm gonna say goodbye to you the way I normally say goodbye to you. So, guys, everybody, have a great day out there. I want to thank you guys for being part of the show. I'm going to crank up my music just a little bit. I'm going to go over to one of my assets, which is a video asset. Slide on down to the bottom here. And then there's a video down here that says thanks for watching. So I'm going to click here, put this asset here, and I'm going to stop sharing here. So, bam, stop sharing. Boom. Guys, thank you so much. You see everything's turned in black here. But thank you for watching. I will see you later.